Roll call, please.
Here. Dr. Lee,
Yeah.
Mr. Malkin, Mr. Mizlinski.
Here.
I'm having trouble. We're not here.
Yep.
Mr. Schwartzmeyer,
Here.
Here. Okay, preliminary matters. Welcome everyone to our June 18th regular monthly meeting for Franklin Park Borough. Preliminary matters, there are none. Public comment. Residents and taxpayers of Borough are permitted to comment current matters or concern of agenda items which are before council this evening. If you'd like to address Borough Council this evening, we ask that you please stand at the microphone, give your name, spell your last name, give your address so you will be properly identified for the minute record. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. As an alternative, written comments can also be submitted to public comments at Franklin Park Borough .us prior to 12 noon Eastern Time on Wednesday, June 18, 2025, in order to be considered at this meeting. Please include June 18th public comments as a subject of your email and include your name and address so you are properly identified for the minute record. Were there any emails at the?
There were none.
Seeing as there were none, are there any public? Well, call the folks. Yeah, so we have some registered speakers. If you are, I'll call your name. Please feel free to come up and speak. Apologies in advance for mispronouncing your last name. Paul Reichenker, 1714 Holmes Drive. Yep. You have to hold it down. Sorry.
Ah, geez. Modern technology. Dennis, how are you? Board members, great to see you always. I don't get to see you enough. Doggone it. Anyway, thanks for hearing our concerns. Of course, thanks for the attempts. I'm here with the Settlers Walk HOA concerning our streets. And you know well about that. The last meeting we had, you guys came out and you did a little filler here and there. And it's we agreed in our meeting lately, it was tantamount to addressing the deck chairs on the Titanic. Thank you for hearing our concerns just the same. There are beds of cracked asphalt still, and I would have hated to be one of the maintenance guys going out there, because to figure out which lines I was going to draw through there, it's ridiculous. I mean, they actually like would put one line right through a huge bed, and they did patch some places that were quite deep, some hot potholes we had, but since the rains, it's all come back, and it's really a difficult situation because I think it's just cat and mouse at this point. So anyway, that's pretty much that. We were just wondering if there's anything afoot that we don't know about that's going to be addressing this situation that you possibly could tell us about. That's number one. And then the most important thing we can probably address is pickleball. And I know all of you are big pickleball players, or you should be. It's the fastest growing sport in the United States. And I think if we put a big event area down on the field in Blueberry, we might be able to keep up with its growing need for our citizens. That's something I thought, maybe Zach could address or something. But anyway, so those are the two things I'd like to. That was a personal thing of mine, because honestly, if pickleball was heroin, I'd be dead by now. I am that addicted to it. I played over 15,000 games in the last 3 years, and it's just a lot of fun. It's really, really good for you, because I can't stand working out. How many people like working out here? Huh? There you go. But you don't have to work out when you're playing a game, and this is the greatest part of pickleball. Plus, you get to meet a lot of people, and it's really good for our community, I think. So anyway, if you could address those two issues, we'd be, or I'd be pleased. And then Settlers Walk HOA would also not like to know a little bit about the streets. Thank you.
Yeah, just real quick, do you mind telling us your name and address for the record so we can get some notes here?
I got ahead of myself. Paul Rechenmacher, Paul, Rechenmacher, And I'm at 1714 Holmes Drive, Swickley, PA 15143. And if you know anyone could spell my last name that fast, they are related. So, all right.
With regards to pickleball, we have a comprehensive plan for recreation coming out. We are advising residents to very much participate in that so we can have it known that pickleball is in demand. So that's the pickleball part. As far as a paving issue, yes, we did have three, representatives of your HOA here 2 months ago to discuss this issue. We had a chance to connect afterwards as well. If there are specific areas, we can take it to Public Works to get it addressed. I mean, we are looking at all streets in general. It has not changed since February, but as you noted in your email, there have been some issues, or not issues, but areas where the borough has addressed the items. Okay. Thank you. Our next signed-up speaker, Brigitte Savchek. Am I saying it correctly? If you could, your name and address for the record, please.
I wrote my address back on the sheet. Do you still want it? Yes. Okay. 2393 Bellwood Drive, Bridget Savchik. I'm a 26-year resident of Bellwood Drive in Ward 3 of Franklin Park. My husband and I raised 3 children there, and we've enjoyed the quiet, small-town setting of Franklin Park and the exceptional schools of North Allegheny. I think Franklin Park is a really well-run borough, and I think Mayor O'Keefe has done a fantastic job, as has Chief Leach, in keeping order and common sense in our community. I've looked over the Franklin Park 2025 budget. In 2020, 21, 22, and 23, Franklin Park had a balanced budget. And then in 2024 and 25, things started to go south. I've come to find out that for 2025, Borough of Franklin Park budget has a projected revenue of $14,059,400 and a projected expenditure of $15,266,800. God bless you. That means you're about 9% over budget. You're almost there, okay? Now you just need to finish the job. A straightforward way is a 9% cut across the board. And be done with this home rule charter nonsense. As a taxpayer and resident, I view your bottom line responsibility as council members is to balance the budget. If you can't agree to do that, I don't even know why you're here. I understand that the state is mandating that we remediate our stormwater infrastructure. I also understand that by state law, the borough is not permitted to raise its earned income tax rate above the existing 1%. I think the current model of government is working just fine. We don't need a home rule charter. Right now, we have certain council members who are responding incorrectly to the realities of maintaining a budget. Rather than cutting back on expenses, they want to jettison our existing government structure and create a whole new charter from scratch just to avoid the pain of balancing the budget. And I'm excluding Councilmen Mislinski and Schwartzmeyer from my criticism here, as I know them to be fiscally conservative. I would rather see our borough expenses cut and continue this boondoggle effort to create a home rule charter. The home rule charter proposal is nothing but a euphemism for allowing the governing body of Franklin Park to raise taxes in an unchecked manner. The question on the ballot for this November isn't even honestly worded. It makes no mention of the costs incurred for the creation of our charter. Someone threw out the number 100K. I think the legal fees alone are going to be in the neighborhood of $300 to $500K. We're talking about creating a new constitution for Franklin Park, a legal document that could be hundreds of pages long, and that is a huge expense. And why should we be electing candidates for the commission at the same time as we're deciding whether or not we even want a commission? Isn't that putting the cart before the horse? You're asking the commission candidates to go to the trouble of collecting 162 petition signatures just in case the commission is approved. A better approach would be to establish whether or not a commission is even desired and then vote on its members in the next election cycle. I'm a hard no on the Home Rule Charter, and I'll be encouraging my friends and neighbors to vote no. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next up, we have Dina Roach.
Hi, my name is Dina Dosh. I live at 1712 Holmes Drive. Only a few people know me. This is my first meeting. But I wanted to just address the board with an open question, respectfully. I don't know if anybody has noticed the wildlife problem that we have in Franklin Park. It seems like it's really increased in the last few years. The does seem to be having twins and triplets, I think, and I'm seeing like 3 babies with a wounded doe. It's a risk on our roads for our young drivers. We have a lot of young drivers, and I didn't know if I'm not an expert on this, but if there could be any effort or thought into a controlled harvest of some of the deer, perhaps with the archery event that I have heard of, that this is very safe for communities, and it would cut down on the population because the deer will starve and it's cruel for them to grow unchecked. So I am not an expert by any means, but I wanted to know if any of the council had ever thought of this.
Yes, Ms. Dausch, we do have a program where we allow archery hunting on our property, government property that's owned by the borough, including our parks and things like that. We have talked about, I know Pittsburgh sometimes closes down their parks for one weekend of year and allows kind of a harvest like this. We haven't gone through that step, probably primarily because we haven't had much interest from hunters so far. We started a new program. We used to belong to another program run by community members. I don't know. Can you all hear me? Is this working? Okay. And then we took it over ourselves to try and boost, interest and participation. Zach, I don't know if you want to speak to that at all. We didn't have much increased interest and participation. In terms of private lots, you have to have a big enough piece of property to do that on, and to be far enough away from buildings and things like that. So it's a struggle. We're certainly aware of it. We're trying to figure out ways to help.
Anyone else? Okay, no, thank you. Monthly reports. The minutes of the May 21st, 2025 pre-post meeting, the May 21st, 2025 regular meeting, the June 4th, 2025 work session minutes were given to mayor and council in addition to corrections. Seeing as there are none, motion number one.
Move the minutes. 2025 pre-post meeting, the May 21st, 2025 regular meeting, and the June 4th, 2025 work session minutes be approved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Treasurer's financial report.
Mr. President, general fund revenue for the month of April totaled $1,546,000, which represents about approximately 11% of the 2025 total general fund budget. Year to date, I'm sorry, for the month of May. Year to date for the month of May, revenue totaled approximately $3,365,000, which is approximately 24% of the total revenue budget for the year. Through May expenditure, for the month of May, expenditures totaled $798,600, which represented 5.23% of the general fund budget. And year to date through May, expenditures are $3,681,000, which is approximately 24% of the total budget. That's the report.
May and Treasurer's financial report will be accepted as read.
Second.
Hold down your button.
My question is on the expenses, I'm sorry, the revenue. It seemed like, expenditures. In 2023, at this year to date, we had expended 26%. It's going downhill as well, but the revenue is only at 23% this year, where 2 years ago, by this time, we were at 30%. So it seems like our revenue's coming, you gotta hold the button the whole time. It seems like our revenue's coming in slower this year than it has in the last two.
Hard to say. It could be a timing issue for both real estate and earned income tax for any given month.
Okay.
I mean, it's possible that we received a large check, for example, from an escrow company for real estate taxes in May 2 years ago that we didn't receive until June this year. And that could tilt it quite a bit.
So this doesn't signify an issue, it just
No.
signifies the timing of
Timing,
the revenue
yes.
coming in.
Yes.
Because we were 34% 2 years ago, 26% last year, and now we're just under 24%. So it's been sliding for 3 years in a row. So I just wanted to be sure there was no underlying cause that we expect the problem.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, thank you, Reach.
Also changed file accounting, cash accrual. I'm reminded that happened a couple years back.
We went through accrual back in 2023.
Yeah, and so tracking is going to be different because of that too, right?
I'd have to look and see.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of new to the finance director thing.
Understood.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Please report.
Yes, Mr. President, our Franklin Park Police serviced 491 calls during May, resulting in 11 arrests, 2 DUI, 2 warrant, 1 disorderly conduct, 1 harassment, 2 simple assault, 1 theft by deception, 1 theft of property, 1 forgery, 72 citations were issued, and 147 warnings, and there was no special response team detailed. Our officers completed 344 hours of training during May, and that completes the police report, Mr. President.
Recommend the police report be filed with the police secretary.
Fire report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The fire company responded to 23 calls for the month with the following breakdown. 7 dispatched and canceled en route, 3 automatic fire alarms with no smoke or fire, 2 natural gas leaks, gas light malfunction, nothing found on second call, 1 vehicle accident with general cleanup and traffic control, 1 vehicle accident with entrapment, general cleanup and traffic control, 1 police EMS assist with biohazard, 1 carbon monoxide detector activations with no readings found, 1 CO detector activation due to a malfunction, no readings were found, 1 CO detector activation with CO readings, 75 parts per million. Owner was running a generator near the house, 1 smoke scare or odor of smoke scare, 1 authorized burning, 1 cover assignment standby, 1 weather-related call with a large tree laying across communication cables, 1 good intent call. The fire company was assisted by other fire companies 0 times, and we assisted other fire companies 10 times. Year-to-date fire calls are 148. For the month of May, the company expended 465 volunteer man-hours, and for the past 12 months, the company expended 6,419 volunteer man-hours. End of report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Building inspector report.
Structure report.
Okay, thank you. What's the announcement of executive session? Borough Council held an executive session on June 4th, 2025 to discuss potential litigation investigation of DEP stormwater complaint on private property and personnel. Borough Council also held an executive session earlier this evening on June 18th to discuss personnel issues and potential litigation. Property acquisition. Okay, old business, there is none. New business, motion number 3.
Move council authorize the payment of the bills which have been reviewed and approved since the last meeting and are available for viewing on the Borough website.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstain? Motion carries. We have a public hearing, conditional use application CU 25-05-01, Carol Madera, 2644 State Gamelands Road.
Okay, thank you. We are on the record. This is the date, time, and location for a conditional use public hearing submitted by Carol Mandera / the Mandera Family Trust for a property located at 2644 State Gamelands Road in the R1 zoning district. Assessment records show that the property is 9.53 acres. It is currently developed with a single-family dwelling, a detached garage, and 4 sheds. The application is to obtain approval for a roof-mounted solar panel arrays on 2 of the shed structures. One shed is 12 feet by 12 feet. The other shed is 25 feet by 15 feet. Both solar arrays will utilize 5.5 feet by 3 feet solar panels. This is application number CU 25-05-01. It is for Blot and Lock number 1344-K-284. I have several preliminary exhibits to enter into the record, and then we will hear from the applicant with respect to what they are proposing to do here. We'll see if there are any objectors to the application and open the floor for questions from council members. Our preliminary exhibits are as follows. Borough Exhibit A is the application received May 1st, 2025. Borough Exhibit B is the revised application received May 20th, 2025. Borough Exhibit C is the text from the zoning ordinance section 212-404 regarding solar panels. Borough Exhibit D is the text of section 212-1907H accessory use regulations for solar. Borough Exhibit E as section 212-1803 general conditional use criteria. Borough Exhibit F is the public hearing proof of publication from May 29th, 2025 and June 5th, 2025. Borough Exhibit G is a picture of the posting. Borough Exhibit H are the letters to the neighboring property owners and notice to the applicant. Borough Exhibit I is Mr. Phillips' staff report dated May 15th, 2025. Borough Exhibit J is the staff report dated May 27th, 2025. Borough Exhibit K will be the meeting minutes from the Planning Commission's May 20th, 2025 meeting, in which they recommended approval subject to the conditions stated in the staff report. At this time, anybody that will speak either for or against this application, if you could please rise and be sworn in by our court reporter. There we go, both of you. Yeah. Thank you. Is there anybody here that is going to speak in for or against this application other than the applicant? Seeing none, the floor is yours. We do have a copy of your application. We have reviewed it, but please tell us what you plan to do. And you need to hold down the button too, so it's yes.
Okay. Except I hate microphones. I did not get a copy of the second staff report. I have the original one, but I don't have the second one, so if there's anything, I wouldn't have been able to address.
So right in front of you on the dais there should be upside down. Yep, there's your copies of everything that I just read. Sorry, I didn't mention that before. It was upside down, but yes, it is included there. I'm not sure, Mr. Phillips, if there's anything you need to address out of the gate. Yes, please.
My name is Carol Mandera. It's Mandera. My Pennsylvania address is 2644 State Game Lands Road, Wexford 15090. But I am a resident of Montana. My address there is 1652 Walnut Street, Helena, Montana 59601. Okay, the property on State Game Lands Road is my family home where I was born and raised. So, and my children and I bought it after my parents died. We all live in Montana. We use it as a summer kind of home, but I come in and mow the grass every summer. And my oldest son, who is here, comes in and helps. He usually comes for a month every summer. His name is Thomas Sean Mandera, and he is the solar expert in our family. So he'll actually be the one that's explaining and answering any questions.
Thank you.
Tom Mandera, as Mom indicated, I reside in Montana, but we've got property here, 2644 State Game Lands Road. The short form of it is we're going to install some solar panels on 2 of the existing outbuildings to reduce the costs of maintaining electricity to the property. That's the short of it. There'll be microinverters. It'll be grid tied. There are no batteries. There's I don't think there's any noise to speak of. There might be a cooling fan perhaps, but really it's very low impact. The property itself is in the valley bottom with it's forested on certainly one side, and we border the game lands on the other, and the other neighbors are across the road and up the hill through some more trees. So it'll be hard for anybody to see most of it. It won't make any noise, and it's just going to reduce electric bill.
Thank you, sir. Going down the line, we'll start with my left here. Mayor Keith, any questions for the applicant?
I do not.
I have none.
President Palad?
None. Thank you.
Ms. Linsky?
Just one quick one. I noticed that on the larger structure, you had hoped to do 80% coverage, and the Planning Commission had approved 75%. Is that okay? Is that doable?
I can manage that. Yep.
And I believe that's a requirement from the ordinance. Is that right, Mr. Phillips? Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Mislinski?
That's it for me.
Member and Planning Commission member, Dr. Lee.
We have research of questions and doing that today. Committee and the meeting, so right now I don't have any.
No questions. Mr. Schwartzmeyer.
I have no questions. It seems like a nice project. I'm very familiar with the property as I go down state game land roads all the time. So hopefully you'll be successful with it and it'll reduce your cost. Thank you.
Any final comments, Mr. Phillips? There you go. We'll open the floor to any public comments. You don't need to be in close proximity. Anybody care to speak for or against this application? Do so now. Forever hold your peace. Seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Mendera and Mr. Mendera. At this time, we will stay on the record. Council, you do have motion number 4 as written on the agenda that you have the option to read tonight, or if you care, you can table this till the next meeting within 45 days of tonight's public hearing.
Move to approve conditional use application CU-25-05-01 submitted by Carol Mandera for conditional use approval to allow solar panels to be attached to an accessory use building on the property located at 2644 State Game Lands Road in the R1 zone, contingent upon compliance with the building inspector / zoning officer staff 7th, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion number 4 carries.
Thank you. We will go off the record now. You will receive a written letter, hopefully tomorrow, with respect to your approval, including another copy of the May 27th staff report. And as Mr. Phillips said, next step would be building / electrical permits.
Okay, thank you. Motion number 5.
Move to approve subdivision application number SPF-25-04-01 submitted by Jack Roser for the Emma B. Gross Rochester Road Plan of Lots Number 2 to combine 2 lots into 1 lot and alter a private right-of-way located at 1003 Taylor Lane in the R2 zoning district, contingent upon compliance with the building inspector zoning officer staff report dated May 27th, 2025, and the letter from LSSE Civil Engineers and Surveyors Incorporated dated May 16th, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All those for?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Move to approve the option year articles of agreement between the Borough and Morton Salt Incorporated of Chicago, Illinois, for the exercising of an additional contract option year for 2025-2026 season, beginning September 1st, 2025, ending on August 31st, 2026, at a cost of $81.01 per ton delivered, in accordance with the North Hills COG bid for rock salt, opened on May 25th of 2023.
Second.
Mara, I think you said 8101. It's 8801.
I apologize. You're right. It's 8801.
You have a second? Okay. Okay, any discussion? All those for?
Aye.
Against? Abstain? Motion carries. Mr. Yonker, would you summarize resolution number 1383-25?
Certainly. This is resolution number 1383 of 2025. It is a resolution of the Borough of Franklin Park, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, appointing Nathan G. Smith as an alternate member of the Zoning Hearing Board.
Resolution number 1383-2025 appointing Nathan G. Smith as alternate and member of the Zoning Hearing Board for the term set to expire December 31st, 2025.
Any discussion? All those for?
Aye.
Abstain? Motion carries. Mr. Yonker, would you summarize resolution?
Yes, this is resolution number 1384 of 2025. It is a resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Franklin Park, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, requesting a Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program, GTRP, grant in the amount of $250,000.
To adopt the resolution number 1384-2025 for a Greenways, Trails and Recreation Program, GTRP grant application in the amount of $250,000 from the Commonwealth Financial Authority to be used for the Veterans Trail Bridges in Blueberry Hill Park.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, carries. Mr. Yonker, would you summarize resolution number 1385-2025?
Yes, this is resolution number 1385 of 2025. It is a resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Franklin Park, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, applying for and entering into a traffic signal maintenance agreement and to submit future applications for traffic signal approval.
Move to adopt resolution number 1385, of 2025, authorizing and directing the borough manager to submit a traffic signal maintenance agreement as part of the PennDOT ARLE grant application in the amount of $77,840 for speedminder signed assemblies on Wexford Run Road, Cole Road, Georgetown Drive, Wexford Bain Road, Reese Run Road.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 9 carries.
This as Borough Manager effective July 7th, 2025, at a salary of $105,000.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion 10 carries. Mr. Yonker, would you summarize resolution 1386-2025?
Yes, this is resolution 1386 of 2025. It's a resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Franklin Park, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, waiving the residency requirement for the borough manager as set forth in section 33 of the Code of the Borough of Franklin Park.
Move to adopt the resolution number 1386-2025, waiving the residency requirement for the borough manager as set forth in section 34-3 of the Code of the Borough of Franklin Park.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Abstained? Motion 11 carries.
Move to authorize the transition of Regis J. Ebner, Jr. to the position of Finance Director, Treasurer, as of July 7th, 2025, at a salary of $110,000.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Yonker, 7-2025.
Yes, this is resolution number 1387 of 2025. It is a resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Franklin Park, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, amending and revising the schedule of fees per borough ordinances.
Move to adopt resolution number 1385, resolution number 1387-2025, amending and revising the schedule of fees per borough ordinances to amend the formula for determining the amount of fee in lieu of land dedication.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Move the borough enter into the operation and maintenance agreement for small flow and sewage treatment facility management for the installation of the small flow treatment facility to replace the existing unlocked sewage system on the Bell property located at 2606 Big Swiggin Creek.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Move the borough enter into a contract with Maxim Construction LLC of Cannonsburg, PA for contract number 24-PK1, parentheses, rebid, Clover Hill Golf Course Clubhouse exterior renovations.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I can just introduce it and then we'll go into it. We'll now introduce ordinance number 693 of 2025. It is an ordinance of the Borough of Franklin Park, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, to place a government study commission question on the ballot for the 2025 general election. This ordinance will be advertised for potential action at the July 16th, 2025 regular meeting, but because this is a hot topic, as we heard from public comment, we do have a presentation that we will roll out now in terms of explaining the process, procedure, and some of the other concepts involved in home rule. We'll say that council has been looking at this for approximately 2 years now. We did pass the ordinance this time last year. However, we repealed it because of the timing and the amount of questions. And I think as part of the presentation, we'll go over the last year in terms of this being a running topic on work session and regular meeting agenda as we come to today's date.
Mr. Yunker, I had a quick question about the form of what's going on the ballot. Is that controlled by state law or the county is telling us how it will be formulated?
Yeah, the question, we can have one of 3 types of questions. The exact language is in state law and the home rule charter and optional plans law. Council did have the option of choosing 7, 9, or 11 potential members of the government study commission. The ordinance sets that number at 7, the minimum allowed by state law.
Okay, any questions before we get started?
Just one question. I heard the one resident that did speak ask about the process, and I think you already answered this, but we can't just make, and this is where I personally became confused with the vote last year. I assumed when it was going to be on the ballot in the fall, it was a yes or no, and then a subsequent election would result in the election of the commission if the yes vote was in the affirmative. And I believe that was incorrect at that time, but that's not it can't even be reworded that way. So it's, if it goes onto this fall ballot, it will be a yes or no, and all the commission will be elected simultaneously.
And the yes or no is about investigating it, not passing or failing, right? So the commission investigates and then makes a recommendation, then it goes for another vote for everybody, and they decide whether or not they're going to adopt it.
And the timeline will be at the end as well. Okay, so thank you everyone for your attendance. Since there are a lot of questions on home rule, we figured this would be a good opportunity to kind of convey information that we've collected. We are not having this presentation as a support or against home rule. It is just provide information. Ultimately, it's up to the voters if they want to pursue this or not and how they want to pursue it. Before getting started, a couple of ground rules. Just want to, any Q&A, I know we have a Q&A after this, so please hold any questions towards the end. This way we can document it, and if we don't have the answer, we can get back to you and make sure it's on the Q&A, which is on the website. Just want to acknowledge Councilwoman Chekai for putting together the Q&A document, Councilman Schwartzmeyer for his leading the outreach to Jefferson Hills to get an idea of another community that's recently gone through this, and of course Mayor O'Keefe for a deep dive that he set up with the mayor of Lancaster, who had gone through this process, I believe, 15 years ago. Okay. Okay, just a quick context and background. You know, some of the drivers or reasons to do this are not just an efficient form of government, but also to look at our finances. So as you can see from our budget, the revenue, the expenses have been exceeding the revenue for the last couple of years. And of course, all this information is sourced from the 2025 approved budget, which was approved in early December. We are running a deficit for the last 3 years, which includes this year as well. Deficits have been funded by reserves. We have a reserve policy, which sets our reserves at 16 or 17%. Our expense categories for 2025, as an example, is highlighted in the bottom left in the pie chart. Right now, for 2025, we have about 37% of our expenses going to employee costs. That is people, that is public safety, public works. Typically, it's about 45% or so, but this year we have a category of funds, which is in orange, it's 21%. basically that category funds our capital improvements. In the last couple of years, the reason why the expenditure side wasn't as high as it is this year, for example, is those capital expenditures or funding of those accounts has been deferred. So unfortunately, there's only so much you can defer expenses, and this year we are going to have to fund those accounts. And the bottom right, this actually is related to one of the commenters or speakers from the beginning. We do a lot of road paving. Road paving accounts for a significant portion of our budget every year. It's not just new paving, but also the maintenance and rework. We have been under paving, going under the historical norm of like 4 to 4.5%. We are now lately hitting the 2.5% mark. So we are falling behind. As issues occur, we have to pivot and address those issues, whether it's a sinkhole or emergency road repair, and that takes away from our normal paving. So I just want to preface the following information is sourced from DCED. You are able to go and download a slide that's official from the state, which is where this information is sourced from. The slides are available on the Borough website. So the definition of home rule basically transfers authority to act in municipal affairs from the state law to a local charter that's drafted, adopted, and amended by the voters. The law was enacted in 1972 by the Commonwealth. In italics is the actual technical definition, or the law if you want to go look it up. But generally speaking, it was enacted in 72. And that's when you started seeing a flurry of municipalities that started to kind of take a look at home rule and see if it's what are the benefits, cons, those kind of things, and adopt it if they wanted to. So the municipalities may exercise powers and perform some functions that are defined by, of course, constitutions, U.S. and state, and also state laws. So there are some specific restrictions, which we'll get into a little bit later, but it's to make it uniform, and also the home rule charter itself can dictate what the borough can and cannot do. So it can be limiting if that's what the commission members choose. It does transfer authority in municipal affairs from state law to the local community. So basically, we are governed by, the borough would be governed by Franklin Park Borough's charter or constitution, and not the state overall authority. As I mentioned, this is decided upon, approved, and amended by the voters. Since 1972, home rule charter has been adopted by 79 municipalities. Pretty much all of our neighboring municipalities are home rule. Pine, McCandless, Bradford Woods, Richland, and even Upper St. Clair. I know it's in the South Hills, but these are all notable communities. They are all home rule. Few of us have talked to some of the officials in those communities. We meet on things such as the ambulance authority and other public municipal matters, and I've asked question, you ever thought about not being home rule? Personally, the feedback I've gotten is they have not thought that way. They are fine or even glad they did this in the 70s. The last community to do this was Pine, and that was in 1992. The other ones had done this in the 70s and early 80s, the latest. There's 7 counties that are home rule, Allegheny being the closest. Some things to consider. It's a foundation. It does shift governance from the state code to the local citizens, being the borough. There's flexibility in defining the structure, whether it's taxation, other functions of the municipality, such as operations. It's an opportunity to create the government that best meets the needs of the municipality. Franklin Park now has over 16,000 residents. Back in the 70s and 80s, I'm pretty sure the population was a third of what it is now. I'm not sure if anybody knows, but sometimes whatever form of government you have does not meet the needs of the current citizens and the expenses and just the way to operate the borough. Some of the advantages: you can identify and increase accountability. You can increase citizen participation, increase responsiveness. You can have wider representation. You can enhance physical procedures and controls. And you can also offer relief for an aging or retiring population. There's a lot of limits on home rule, quite a lot of limits. But the best way to put this is we can't just invent a tax or a fee. It's something that has to be existing. We can't go out and invent a artificial turf tax or something, or a fee. There's quite a few limitations. This does list some of those out. I'm sure there's a whole host of other limitations. So how would it work? So as we were talking about earlier, it's a two-part. It's a yes, if it's on the ballot. It's a question. It's not to adopt it. It's a question to study it. So the first is a yes, no. Should it cover? It's a government study commission, GSC, and it's placed on the ballot. You have 7 residents that are volunteers to basically study this, to come up with the pros and cons. They very well might come back and say, you know what, this is not worth it, and we would like to recommend you don't pursue it. But the first part is the question, and then the second part are the nominees. As stated, our ordinance will call for 7 nominees or members to make this simple for quorum purposes and efficient. Just something to note, if this does fail to pass, this question cannot be placed on the ballot referendum for 5 years or 2030. A journey map of how this would work, given where we are today, starting in the southwest corner of the slide, we are in June, July 2025, the first steps. So the first step of this is to host information sessions, provide information, get questions, answer the questions, see what we can do to provide as much details as possible. The ballot initiative and petition effort or activities occur in August 2025. The candidates are whoever's interested, they put the signatures, get on the ballot. And then November, it's a ballot initiative commission. This assumes if it does pass, and the commission members are voted in or whatnot, they take their oath and begin their activities after that. And then August 2020, sorry, this thing is kind of in the way. It's blocking me. Okay, that's a little bit better. All right, so August 2026, there's a decision point. Now, the Government Study Commission, the members, they should be meeting regularly. It's self-directed. We did talk to a few other municipalities that went through this. Some of them hired a external firm to run this. You can do this self-directed. There are nonprofit ways or opportunities here. It does not mean that we have to take a standard corporate approach here. There's flexibility. So let's say these members, it's voted in. This is moving along. August 2026 is the first real milestone. There's a decision that occurs. The decision is basically the GSC members determine whether to proceed with home rule or stop. They, at this point, will have come up with the pros and cons. If they see that this is not valuable to the borough, then their recommendation is, we're going to stop this. If that's the case, then the entire process stops and there's nothing further here. If they do see value in this and they say we should pursue this, then there's 9 months remaining where the GSC members will have to formulate the charter, and it could be simple. There are many home rule communities in the state and even in Allegheny County. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. Again, it's all GSC driven, but they would ideally have this deliverable or draft charter presented to the borough in March 2027. And then that would actually go to a referendum for the voters to decide, yes, do you want to adopt this charter or not? If the answer is no, then this stops also. The reason why the dates of August 2026 and March 2027 are listed there is it is 9 months after the election is certified that the first milestone occurs. Then it is within 18 months of the election certified that the deliverable is due. Let me see if this will go. Okay, so I talked about that at a surface level in an infographic, but just some of the more detailed route to talk about this. It's a timeline. Within 10 days, the election, if this were to pass the election or whatnot, the members must take their oath. That's probably late November, early December, depending on when it's certified by the county. Within 15 days of certifying the election, the Government Study Commission, those members must organize and hold their first public meeting. So I'm not sure what's imagined or envisioned here, but I imagine it'd be something in the borough building where they talk start going over the pros and cons and determining the project plan, et cetera, what they're going to accomplish. Within 9 months, that government study commission determines whether to proceed or not. And then, of course, 18 months after the election is when they draft a charter. On the right side, there's some implementation details. It is more the legal footnote that was in the state's DCED. Just it has to be coded. The one thing I do want to point out, it's got to be codified by the ordinances. So if this does pass, and it's recommended, and the voters do pass it, the borough will still have to have an ordinance, introduce that, have the 60 days and the usual. So we're probably talking 2028. Just some additional resources. This was provided by DCED, the Governor's Center for Local Government Services, Home Rule and PA. There's other home rule municipalities, PML, Home Rule Advocacy Committee, League of Women Voters, colleges, universities, of course, County Management Association, of course, caveat at the end, just carefully consider where your information is coming from. That is the end. We have some time left over for Q&A. If you are coming to ask a question, please hold the button down as you're speaking and speak into the mic so that we can hear you. And they are limited to 5 minutes, I believe. Where's that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. General practice. Okay. So.
How many pages is the home rule charter for McCandless and Pine and whoever else?
We haven't seen it. We can get a copy and we can put it out on that list. We can get links to it and have it on the Q&A.
What percentage of Franklin Park residents do you think are going to read this?
Can't speak to hypothetical.
Oh, if you're presenting a 100-page document,
Nobody's
80% of the people in the borough aren't going to have time to read it.
Nobody's presenting a 100-page document. We've seen home rule charters that were 2 or 3 or 4 pages. That's just the beginning of the work. And then after, if the community decides that they want to adopt the home rule charter, then there are essentially regulations that go into that are started to written so that they can be so that the home rule charter can be effective. So it's not a huge document in of itself.
It sounds to me like you're trying to say you have to pass the bill so you'll find out what's in it.
Passing the bill is to have the option to look at it. It does not mean that it's passed. Just want to be clear that you still have to have this process of 18 months occur. So there is no charter at the moment. The Government Study Commission will be drafting the charter if they determine that this is the route to go. And if they do say, yeah, this is valuable to Franklin Park, here is the draft, the voters will still have to vote on that. And that still has to be adopted by Borough Council after that vote, assuming that it passes. It may fail at every step of the way.
I think you sort of jumped to the end on the ballot question to adopt the charter. First, this ordinance just places the question on November's ballot should you, the residents of Franklin Park, want to put in place a government study commission to study this issue. And if they do, they're to elect the 7 people. They could be voted down right then and there. You don't even, you can vote no and still vote on the 7 people, I believe, the way it is. But this could be a short-lived exercise. But once it does get started, there is that 9-month check mark on whether or not the commission thinks a charter should be considered. As they go through that process, and another 9 months or so, they can draft one. And then that is put back on the ballot for another vote by the electorate. And then once it's in place, if we get to that part where it's adopted, changes and amendments to the charter have to go onto the ballot through a somewhat similar process.
It's all referendum. It's all based on what the community they don't want to vote for.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Mr. President, may I make a quick comment?
Yep, go ahead.
We've been involved in this oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, coming up.
Yep.
What I was going to say is we've been involved in this for well over a year, discussing the possibility of home rule. I think one of the things that concerns me is it's being portrayed that this is a way to tax the residents more. And it's really not. It's actually, it's being developed in a way to come up with different revenue streams that won't increase the taxes to the residents. And I think that's an important distinction. Like, we could make a detransfer tax that would help with some of our shortfalls on the revenue, especially these shortfalls are predicted over the next 4 or 5 years due to all the stormwater work that the borough has to perform. So the idea is, let's keep our tax rate the same for all of our citizens, but come up with other ways to bring in funds that don't exist to us under the municipal planning code as a borough. So I think when Bridget spoke about her comments, I think the idea is, if you you're going to spend something to do it. I'm not quite sure what that money will be, but we may want to try to put a better estimate on that. But if we can bring in, and I'm making this up, if we can bring in $500,000 a year in other revenue sources that doesn't come from our citizens, and we spent $50,000, $75,000 to develop the whole charter, it's certainly, we're ahead of the game already. And I think that's what the commission will, if they're formed, if we choose to go that way, the commission will have to weigh that, the possibility. And I think as Mr. Malkin mentioned early on, there's a possibility they may work for a few months and say, we don't think we can come up with anything that's better than what you have today. And I think that the safeties in the whole process are, if they run amok and come back with something that's way out in left field, the voters, you and me and everybody here, can vote it down in a general election. So this wasn't meant to be a money grab. It was meant to be preserve what we have today. And I just, in a way, in my background, I mean, I'm a North Allegheny graduate. I've had my home in Franklin Park for 47 years. So I'm vested in this community, and certainly would not want to do anything detrimental to any of the residents, including myself. This is just another opportunity to try to address unfunded mandates that we've received from the state. So that's my view on why we're talking about it. And I think some of my council members will agree with that. And as mentioned early on, I mean, Laura did a fantastic job putting all the authoring this article. That's a 3-page article that's in our spring newsletter. I mean, she had input, but she really put tried to put it in a very concise way so that it was very clear and concise. So I want to thank her personally for that as well. So,
and Mr. Schwartzmeyer, the other thing that came up when we were considering this was the issue of the actual form of the government, if you recall. And everybody in the council room said, that's not really what we're talking about here. We're looking at this flexibility that we gain. We're not looking at overhauling the way the government functions or how it's structured. And I think that's also important too, because that was a concern that I heard during questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, one more thing. One more thing. What the charter would look like until the very end. This process has a lot of checks, like my colleagues have said, along the way, and it's intentionally long and it's intentionally complicated, for lack of a better word, to make sure we are not making the decision. All we're doing tonight is voting on whether to put it in on the ballot. Beyond that, it's totally up to the voters of Franklin Park. It will also be up to what's in the charter, if we get to that point, is up to the commission. So we all want to be very thoughtful about, if we vote for folks to put on the commission, we're voting for people who are going to put in the time and the effort to put together a charter that's going to make sure that Franklin Park is well positioned into the future.
representing their community too. That their thoughts that are going into the rural commission and into the charter are what the community wants. So you have to be careful about, who, we need 7 people who are going to run and be selected. You want to be careful about, make sure that you're comfortable and that you're satisfied they're representing your interests.
Okay. Could you give your name and for the record?
Sure. I'm Francie Check, and my husband and I live at 2367 Trimble Road, right around the corner, actually. And we've lived here for 40 years, so we're invested in the community as well. And I really appreciate your points of clarification, even as I stood here, because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. And one of the other points that I hope you can clarify this evening is, despite many people thinking everything's just fine and we balanced the budget, we've really had more difficulty balancing the budget in the last few years than most people realize. For understandable reasons, the community's growing and changing, but why wouldn't we want to explore other ways to help us fund our community? And is that correct? Can you make that a point of clarification? Had to dip into reserves in the last few years, and we can't continue to do that.
Yeah, for the last 7 budget cycles, we've used reserves to fund the deficit. Sorry. For the last 7 budget cycles, 5 of the 7 budget cycles used reserves to fund the deficit. So that is an accurate statement. And we cannot continue using reserves to do that. We have a reserve policy put in place a few years ago to prevent that. I believe the school district has something similar where it's 2 months of run rate. We have something similar as well. If we were to let that reserve fall below that 16-17%, our bond rating will take a hit. Our borrowing costs will go up because we cannot just pay cash for everything. We have long-term obligations and investments where instead of paying 1 or 2%, we will be charged 4 or 5%. That's a waste of money to the residents and taxpayers of Franklin Park.
I think it also is useful to note that we had American Rescue Funds available, and that smoothed the way for some of the years where the budget looked to be balanced, if you recall, and that's not necessarily a balanced budget.
Yeah, there were a lot of one-time gains. We did get a lot of American Rescue Funds, so a community of Franklin Park is considered, a high-class community. We want to keep it that way. But we were fortunate to get those grants. We have a lot of grants that came in outside of that as well. Grants are not predictable. They're not past performance does not indicate future performance. So we are, we can't just assume we're going to get grants or rescue funds to balance our budget.
One additional point, just in terms of growth, I mean, if council will remember, through the 90s and 2000s, we had a lot of new houses, a lot of new developments. If you look at the map, you can see where the sewers are and what, the growth, where it was. Our growth has slowed in the last couple of years, both anecdotally and factually. The number of applications in front of the Planning Commission are down. Yes, we do have construction at Deerfield Estates. We got some at Bliss or otherwise, but Settlers Walk that was in here before, we don't have something that size coming in right now. So a lot of expenses can be met by new growth, but we have seen a slowdown of that as other communities do that might consider other options. And at least in terms of the comprehensive plan and the push to preserve green space, I mean, our ordinance has been updated. We've increased the fee. In lieu, I think probably the borough has purchased the most amount of green space, or received dedications in the last couple of years. So in terms of a changing demographic and a changing finances, that's something to just consider, the trade-off of growth for growth and going gangbusters. You can capture a lot of revenue from new taxpayers, but once it slows down and you have new infrastructure that's in, you've got these other concerns, and you need to sort of diversify and broaden where those funds can come from. And I'm speaking as somebody who's never gone through a home rule charter commission process. This is new for me. We do represent McCandless. We do represent some other municipalities that do have home rule charters. I live in a community with a home rule charter, and at least in terms of the drafting of a constitution, if this does go forward, I'll speak for myself. I am intrigued at the process in terms of that discussion, debate, and see what comes out of it if it gets past this first step.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, any comments from council?
Yeah, I do. Well, I really struggle with this. Really struggle with it. Because I know myself, and I know council also. We don't want to do anything that's going to increase taxes for you personally. But the facts are that we are digging into some reserves the last 2 years, and we don't want to cut services either. I think everybody's pretty comfortable in Franklin Park with what we do to provide services, whether it be our parks or snow removal or putting salt down. We do a really good job, and it does cost a lot of money to do that, and I don't think we want to cut those services. So even with all that, I still struggle. I want to be sure that we don't do things that's going to increase taxes on our citizens. At the same time, it seems like home rule does give us some additional options as to where we can get revenue and still keep everything going without cutting services. But I struggle. Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Any final questions? Okay, I do want to provide 2 points. First is, as a borough that is not home rule, there are situations where the borough is responsible for repairs and infrastructure that PennDOT ordinarily would not force a township or a city to do. We have one project as an example. It was $40,000 because we're a borough and we're not home rule. The interpretation at the courts was for non-home rule boroughs to address it. We're going to have more and more of those. Franklin Park is not a new community. It's got aging infrastructure, and regardless whether it's stormwater or something else, we are going to have pipes that are breaking, roads that are crumbling. It is expensive to fix these kind of things, and these are part of operating your borough. In terms of being very lean, we have made lots of cuts. I do want to point out, the cost of employee and people, it is fixed. It is going to go up, and along with public works and funding our capital expenditures. So yeah, we always look for ideas. So if there are any ideas out there, let us know. This is an option that's been kicked around. There's a reason why McCandless, Pine, and other communities have done this, and they did it a long time ago. It's a serious thing to look at, and that's that.
Do you know, are they charging for their services and we're charging ours at this point because they're a home rule charter?
We did an analysis during last year's budget cycle, and if I'm not mistaken, McCandless and Pine have lower millage rates than Franklin Park does, but they also have a higher real estate transfer fee to accommodate for that. They also have a lot of business.
What does that mean, the real estate transfer fee to everybody?
So, since all of you are homeowners, buy a property or a real estate transaction, there is a fee that's used to pay for the recording and all the administrative things that go along with it. It also funds services, right? Those communities have their fees set at 1%. Franklin Park is at 0.5%. And again, this is a limitation because we're a borough that's not home rule. Because those communities are home rule, they are allowed to set that at 1%. Correspondingly, they've actually dropped their millage because the state law does dictate that we can't just go and raise taxes and grab money. We actually cannot have more than 105% of revenue coming in versus our budget. So those communities have basically done the trade-off. They've adjusted their real estate transfer tax fee and dropped their property tax millage for the residents.
We have an estimate for the folks, what changing that real estate transfer tax would generate in revenue?
If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
wasn't it 250K, or was it $500,000? It was $500,000.
So we're leaving that on the table just as an example right now.
Yeah, that's an example, assuming that the same number of real estate transactions were occurring every year. It doesn't happen just for new builds, it's any transaction in general. Okay, seeing as there are no other questions regarding this, thank you for your time. We'll get that information on the Q&A document. And if there's any questions you have, please feel free to reach out to us. And we also have a home rule email address, right? If anybody's interested in being a GSC person on the ballot, please see us. We are looking for volunteers. It is self-directed.
And I'll mention we've gotten some volunteers that have emailed the borough already, and they're on the list. You don't have to email.
Yep, if you've already asked, you're already on the list.
Yeah.
We'll probably have an information session later in the summer. But thanks again for your time. Moving towards the end, are there any comments? Sorry. Mr. Knock, are there any hands raised on the online meeting?
I see no hands raised.
Okay. Thank you. So comments for our manager?
Comments?
I'd like to just thank Paul Walker and about the streets.
Nothing, Mr. President.
I do want to say one more thing about the comprehensive plan that we did 2 years ago. Max already mentioned the green spaces was the highest, and public parks was I think the highest thing that the residents requested when we did the survey. The second highest thing though was public safety, and I think we in the last year or so we finally have a police force that's full staff. We've been running really lean, and that's really important that we the chief could speak to this, but right now we used to not have just one officer on at certain times of the night. And that used to work, but we have a lot more need for it now, Chief. And I'm not going to put words in the chief's mouth, but with the 79 interchange up there and the Sheets and the hotel and the businesses tend to bring in a little bit more activity than before they were there. And I'll kind of leave it at that, but it was starting to get a little bit difficult to rely on mutual aid from the adjacent municipalities when we have 13 square miles and we only had one officer on patrol some of the nights. So right now our goal is to have 2 officers on each shift 24/7, and we finally got to that probably within the past year. Again, that was the second most important thing to the residents, and since we have more streets, we're up to nearly between 15 and 16,000 residents. It seems like that staffing has really helped. So I wanted to add that that was the residents' number 2 priority. And I think we're really proud of what our officers are doing and how they're covering the borough. And I don't know about anybody here, but I feel very secure living in Franklin Park. So just add that to it. And again, if you have any other questions, you can call any of us on console. we'd be glad to address them. Thank you.
Yeah, just very quickly, Mr. President, I'd like to personally and the council member thank Reach Ebner for his service as borough manager. Our tenures have pretty much overlapped here for the last 6 years. I've seen all the great work and effort that he's put in. Thankfully, we're not losing him entirely as he's taking over the treasurer and assistant borough manager role for a while. But I want to thank him for everything for Franklin Park. And let him know that we really appreciate it.
Pretty gone. Yeah, I want to thank Reach as well. Yeah, since coming on council, gotten to know him quite a bit. Found somebody else who loves spreadsheets as much as I do. So happy to see you're staying here in a finance role. That's awesome. So looking forward to the changes.
Yes, congratulations, Reed, and congratulations to Zach, our new borough manager. And I forgot to mention, as we were talking, I heard, 40-year resident, 26-year resident. I don't know if anybody was a resident here in 1960. There you go. So you were a resident of Franklin Township. We did not become a borough until 1961. So this is something that has happened before. We changed structures then. This is part of an evolution of sorts, but it's not the first time that there's been a change in the structure of the government. Potentially.
I join in your congratulations to Reach and to our new borough manager, Zach. And I appreciate everybody coming out, especially for the folks that came here to find out more about the Home Rule Charter. And I'm hopeful that people will do more investigation and ask questions and try to learn as much as they can, because really this is putting the governance of your community in the people's hands. That's what it's really doing. And so I hope everybody takes it seriously.
Nothing to add.
Congratulations, Reach, and congratulations for our new borough manager, Zach, who'll be coming in here on July the 7th. And thanks, Councilman Schwarzenmeyer, for the comments on the police department. Yes, it's come a long, long way in the years since I've become mayor, for sure. And the other thing that we've been able to accomplish is almost around-the-clock supervision. I think we're around-the-clock supervision, except for, 4 hours out of the day now, Chief? And that we certainly didn't have that before. So not only do we have our officers out with usually two, but we also have supervision which they can go to if you really get into some issues. And I can tell you, we can get into some issues with these highways and what comes off these highways. So believe me, we just don't drive around. We do get into a lot of things, and we are very, very, very good at what we do. We train, like I said, but we're always training. So thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
I just want to add, Festival in the Park is next Saturday, starting at 4 p.m., and we will wrap at about 9 with fireworks.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other public comments? Okay. We are going to adjourn to executive session. Thank you. Thank you.
Moved.
Thanks.